Okay, we'll round things off with the film that's on everyone's lips, Joker.
Yes, a film that has taken over $1 billion.
Yes.
Wow. I don't think anybody expected that, particularly given its initial reviews.
Given how much everyone heard this concept and went, that's ridiculous, that will never make any money. And, well, who's laughing now? Who's laughing now?
It's probably Joaquin Phoenix, but all the wrong moments.
Yes.
Glorification of violence. It'll spark an incel terrorist uprising. Won't somebody think of the children? Blame Canada. The breathless hyperbole and moral panic of the usual oxygen thieves, and the vast majority of whom haven't, of course, seen Todd Phillips' Joker, a film that is more like Occupy Wall Street with Dick and Jane,
Yes.
with a large side order of criticism and inadequate mental health services. Director Phillips, working from a script penned by himself and 8 Mile and the Fighter scribe Scott Silver, is probably not the obvious choice for this origin tale of Batman's nemesis, having made his name with the Hangover trilogy and the Ben Stiller starring Starsky and Hutch. But it's also not your obvious comic book film. So much so, in fact, that its links to the world of Batman are fairly tenuous, and the fact that it's set in Gotham City at all is largely incidental to the events and characters. Joker here is Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and Arthur Fleck is a clown. This, naturally, is a problem as far as relatability goes, as clowns are endlessly crap and their talent has no beginning. However, since he's not much good at clowning anyway, he'll get a pass for now. Arthur is a sad case, suffering from various mental health problems, including an unfortunate condition that causes him to laugh uncontrollably at things not in the least amusing. He also harbours ambitions of being a stand-up comic, but lacks certain crucial skills, like knowing when to laugh or how jokes work. He is beaten up by the world, more than once literally so, and also beaten up by a failing social system, and mocked by those he looks up to. A series of events in this relentlessly awful world, including a run-in with one Thomas Wayne, begin to chip away at Fleck's fragile personality, until he snaps and gets all stabby and shooty and whatnot, before finally becoming the Joker. On leaving the cinema after seeing Joker, I heard someone say to his friend, "He's good, but he's no Heath Ledger." And that's true, but not for the reason I think the guy meant. Joaquin Phoenix is excellent, and he may in fact be better than Heath Ledger, but the roles are so different there's simply no valid point of comparison. Ledger's Joker, as well as being better written and more interesting, was in a very different and much better film. Joker isn't bad by any means, but it suffers from vague plotting and world building, and a lot of ideas inadequately fleshed out or joined up. But Phoenix so elevates the material he has to work with and makes the film considerably better than it otherwise would be. He's excellent, and it really takes a great performance to make sympathetic a character who's both a murderer and a clown. It took a while for me to get into Joker, not that it's bad as I said, but the first half of the film in particular is a bit loose and incoherent. There's an anti-1%ers riot that comes out of pretty much nowhere, with an inciting incident that, even had it been in an atmosphere that had been established as highly charged, is not really a believable spark. And commentary on social services and mental health is far from fully formed. The final act, though, is another matter entirely, and it has an energy that at least fools you into thinking that the previous 2 acts were building to it. Comparisons to Scorsese's Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy are not only apt, but clearly intended, attested to by the presence of Robert De Niro as Arthur's Jerry Langford-esque idol Murray Franklin, and the film's late 70s, early 80s setting, though sadly it's not of the quality of Scorsese's work. Comic book origin stories are beyond passé, and then to make an origin story in 2019 for a character who's most interesting when those origins are entirely mysterious and unknown, witness Heath Ledger's Joker, is bold at best and possibly foolish. Yet, I really enjoyed Joker, and I prefer to have more comic book films, which we are, obviously, then I welcome more like this, thoughtful, restrained, by comparison at least, and character-focused. This is how you do dark, Mr. Snyder. Not just, making everyone scowl and desaturating everything. And not 1 cent spent on moustache removal.
Yes, not as good as Jared Leto, though, is he? Not as many gold teeth, so yeah, not as good. Just try to check. What was the budget of Joker again? It wasn't too...
Between 30 and 50 million, I read earlier today, I think.
Yeah. Now, see, I like Joker well enough. I'll get that out of the way. I got to the end of it. I quite enjoyed it. The more I think about it, maybe I don't know if it's the less I like it or the more holes you can start poking into it, just like you were saying with the earlier acts being a bit turgid and it taking a little while to meander to where it actually gets to in the end. I agree with all you're saying about the character of Joker as well. But what really annoys me about this film is that aside from it being related broadly to comic book characters, this is a sort of drama that you used to be able to see about 20 to 30 times in a summer over the course of a cinema going period, because there would be lots of mid-budget films like this being made by studios, whereas now, because everything's either no budget indie stuff or massively budgeted comic book blockbusters, this is
no middle ground.
Yeah, this stands out only because it's the only one that's been made in the last 10 years or something like that. You know what I mean? And most, if this film was released like 10, 15, 20 years ago, it would be still fine, but it would be sort of bubbling around in the middle of a pack of similar adult dramas, and I don't think it would have been all that remarkable. It's just the landscape we find it in, whereas now somehow taking on that mantle of being a kind of mid-budget risk for a studio that's paid off very well. So no doubt it will be beaten to death by copycats in the coming months and years. That's perhaps the one thing that annoys me. It's a bit more the meta discussion about the film itself rather than the film itself, which is perfectly adequate. And hell of a performance by your Phoenix boy, who really does tie the whole film together, and without him it would be a mess and waste of everyone's time, I think.
It's really hard to imagine it working with anybody but him. He's does such a good job of that. Hugely
committed performance, and it really does work. All credit to him. He's made it work, and it really does tie together well, and it deserves the success. I think it's in a world where comic book films tend to merge into each other. Say this is a way to take it into to explore different tonality than you can expect from Marvel and most of the mainline DC stuff. As you say, Snyder has the ideas, but he's tying them into the wrong characters. I don't think you can't make some kind of darker exploration of Superman, but I just don't think most people want to see it, and that's partly why it has a somewhat dodgy reputation for Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. Whereas if you did it with something like a character that is by nature dark, there's a bit less dissonance there. It does tend to work a bit better, and I think that's played out here. Joker is good, and I enjoyed it. I liked all the acting that was in it, and that the story itself and the actual origin of it. I'm not hugely convinced by it. If you write the plot out and read it, it's like it doesn't sound particularly believable. So that's perhaps a little bit on the weaker side. But yeah, when you're sitting there watching it, that tends not to be quite so much of a concern. And as you alluded to at the start of it, the discussion around it is not worth talking about. Most people are wrong about it.
Most people are idiots.
Yes, anyone who formed an opinion of it before actually seeing it turns out was wrong about it. Who could have predicted? Oh wait, yeah, everyone.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yes.
Yeah, I take your point too. We've mentioned it before. It's like there's so little middle ground anymore. It's like it's big budget or no budget, what I don't know is whether this film's commercial success is because it's still in the comic book realm, because that's what makes all the money nowadays.
Yeah.
Or whether it's actually indicative of a thirst for that sort of drama, exactly the sort of thing you're saying doesn't exist anymore, at least in any scale. And I kind of hope it's that, in which case, if it is that, I hope they take the right lesson.
Yes.
And maybe we see, I don't mean copycats of this like you're worried about, but just like that sort of level of budget and like a good character drama. They exist, obviously they exist, but just in terms of like being able to see one in a cinema and to get that kind of buzz around it doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, so I'm hoping that maybe that shows there's some sort of thirst in the marketplace for that sort of thing, and maybe they can start eking back in.
Yes. We live in hope.
Yeah, and it's worth watching for Phoenix alone.
Yes, yes.
It's one of those insanely committed method acting roles that just I don't think are worth it. It's why sometimes like CGI stuff's worth it. I mean, if you've seen Christian Bale in The Machinist, it's sort of that level of weight loss. It's not healthy.
No.
And for something as silly as play acting, it's not worth it. It's not worth you risking your life, mate. But
for literally clowning around, yes. It's not worth it.
Yeah, so one of those daft committed roles that Phoenix specialises in, and certainly I enjoyed his performance in this much more than something, say, like The Master, which I'm still disappointed by all these years later. I expect so much more from P.T. Anderson. But yeah, it's absolutely worth it for him alone. And he papers over a lot of the cracks in the early stage, and then just that final third, that last act, I just thought was really fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's the bits leading up to that aren't great.
Yeah, it is worth sitting through the first, whatever it would be, hour or 90 minutes or whatever, just to get to the scenes in the studio and that little dialogue between him and De Niro. Very well handled.
It's basically the point it becomes a Joker when you see him putting on the white paint. It's from that point onwards. It's really, really great, and Phoenix is great throughout the film. So for that point of view, it's worth it. Even though he's playing a clown, which normally I just wouldn't tolerate that sort of nonsense.
Yes.
If it was funny, clowns wouldn't be doing it. As Terry Pratchett oft observed.
Yes.